It's January 7th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the probe into President Yoon's martial law declaration. South Korean investigators refiled a warrant to extend the deadline to detain the impeached president on Monday, following the expiration of the first warrant the same day. And the extension request also came after police rejected the investigators' request to carry out the execution. North Korea reported early Tuesday morning that it successfully test-fired a new hypersonic missile that will reliably deter what the leader Kim Jong-un calls enemies' threats in the Pacific region. The world's biggest tech show, CES, returns to Las Vegas this week, with artificial intelligence taking over the 2025 edition once again, but this time AI that is catered towards consumers' lifestyles. South Korean investigators sought to extend the period covering the arrest warrant for President Yoon before the first deadline to do so terminated on Monday. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon starts us off.
The joint investigation team made up of the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials and the police agency re-requested an arrest warrant of President Yoon on Monday, with the first warrant expiring the same day. This move follows a bit of misstep by the CIO in charge of the execution of the warrant earlier in the day when it tried to entrust the police with the warrant's execution. However, the police declined.
The Special Investigation Unit received an official directive from the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials at approximately 7 a.m. today, regarding the execution of an arrest warrant and a search warrant. After conducting an internal legal review, it was determined that the directive from the CIO could be against the law.
The CIO later admitted that the institution lacks the experience and capacity to carry out arrests compared to the police. This comes after backing down from the first attempt to detain President Yoon last week, as the Presidential Security Service declined to make way. However, the legal issue is that the request for the warrant was made by the CIO. Also, according to current laws, the CIO cannot transfer part of its investigative duties to another institution such as the police. So, all in all, the joint investigation team continues with the CIO in charge of the investigation for the whole process. And with that, the joint investigation team has now warned the Presidential Security Service that there will be arrests made at the scene if there is interference again during the second arrest attempt. In the meantime, President Yoon's legal team has yet again criticized the CIO's move.
The president's position remains, as has been stated several times, that the very act of the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials investigating the president on charges of treason is inconsistent with the current legal framework. In other words, it is considered an unlawful investigation.
President Yoon's legal team fired back by filing a complaint against 11 key officials involved in the warrant execution process. Jong-un, the chief prosecutor for the CIO, along with Lee Oh-young, the acting police commissioner, were named on the complaint. In addition, military leaders were also listed on it. The legal team said, amid protecting the president from the execution of the, quote, illegal arrest warrant, the President's Security Service team's request for backup was ignored, which is an obstruction of responsibility. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
North Korea reported this morning that the missile it test-fired on Monday was a hypersonic ballistic missile and that the launch was successful. Our correspondent Kim Jong-soo reports.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un hailed Monday's missile launch as evidence of the regime's ability to address what he described as growing threats. The regime state media reported on Tuesday that a hypersonic intermediate-range ballistic missile was test-launched from a site near Pyongyang. Kim and his daughter Chue reportedly observed the test remotely through a video monitoring system. Kim Jong-un stated that the missile test proves North Korea is continuously advancing its weapons capabilities. He said that this development, including hypersonic intermediate-range ballistic missiles, is part of the regime's efforts to counter what it sees as growing threats from hostile forces. Kim stated that the goal of these weapons is to establish an unchallengeable system at the core of strategic deterrence, continuously strengthening North Korea's nuclear war deterrence. He claimed that few nations possess such advanced weapons and insisted that the test was defensive, posing no threat to neighboring countries. Pyongyang claimed the missile reached Mach 12 and flew about 1,500 kilometers, while South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff estimated it traveled 1,100 kilometers before landing in the East Sea. Analysts say the launch signals North Korea's ability to strike U.S. territories like Guam while deliberately limiting the missile's range to manage tensions. Some believe the move, 2 weeks before Donald Trump's inauguration, was a calculated show of force. While Pyongyang claims the tests are defensive, Seoul condemns them as destabilizing and warns that they further isolate North Korea while raising regional tensions. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Let's dissect the North's first missile launch of the new year as well as in 2 months. Why now, and will there be more? We are joined by Professor Brian Myers. Good to have you back, Professor Myers.
Thank you for having me.
Why did the North keep a low profile during the past 2 months, and should we brace ourselves for more missile provocations in the near future?
Well, considering how expensive the missile launches are, I'm not surprised that the program has taken a bit of a breather over the past few months. And I don't believe that these launches are dictated primarily by political or geopolitical considerations and pressures. I do think there's a scientific timetable here. Having said that, though, I think Trump's election victory may have played some role in getting Kim to hold back on launches for a while, because let's face it, whatever American headlines, whatever American attention his nuclear program gets during this transition from Biden to Trump is going to be wasted. But, I think we need to get away from the term provocation, because it kind of conveys the impression that these launches are just propaganda fireworks, and it makes us overlook the ballistic and nuclear timetable which is operating here. And I think that's probably the main factor in determining when the missiles are launched and when they're not.
That's an interesting point. Well, let's talk more about the missile. It's a new hypersonic missile. What do we know about that missile so far, Professor Myers?
Well, North Korea itself has described it as a new intermediate range ballistic missile, as you just reported on Arirang, tipped with a hypersonic warhead. And the North Koreans are saying it flew 1,500 kilometers at 12 times the speed of sound. Now, the South Korean military says it didn't fly quite that far, and it's unclear quite how new the weapon is, because North Korea did launch some hypersonic weapons in the first half of last year. But there seems to be no disagreement that we're dealing here with a hypersonic weapon, which, of course, poses a threat to the alliance, because these weapons fly so fast. It's very difficult for missile defense systems to intercept them. And whether it flew 1,500 or only 1,100 kilometers, it still seems likely to be able to strike U.S. military bases in Guam. So again, Kim Jong-un is making clear to the Americans that sanctions are not working. His nuclear capability is going to continue to develop. And all of this, of course, poses a challenge to the incoming Trump administration.
Of course, the leader Kim Jong-un had to make a comment on the missile launch. He said the missile would reliably deter enemies' threats in the Pacific region. He's clearly targeting the U.S. here, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's not so interested in South Korean public opinion or in the South Korean government. The Americans are always his main audience for these demonstrations.
Do you think it was targeting more of the Biden administration or the incoming Trump administration, or both?
The Biden administration really doesn't have that much to say here because it's on the way out, and Kim Jong-un is well aware of that. I think there's a lot more continuity, though, between these two administrations than South Koreans realize. The State Department, or the deep state to call it that, disagrees with Trump on many things, but both the deep state and Donald Trump are interested in negotiating with North Korea. And I think Kim Jong-un is aware of that underlying continuity as well.
Well, some experts are also saying that the North was testing South Korea's, readiness and defense posture, considering all the political instabilities here in the country. What's your take on it?
I don't think so. I think North Korea realizes that this is the wrong time to test South Korea in that way. President Yoon in December tried to justify his martial law declaration on the basis of a very imminent North Korean threat to South Korea's security, right? So any saber rattling that Kim might engage in now would really only strengthen the position of the conservative ruling party. And Kim Jong-un, I think, has no interest in that. And this, too, I think, is another reason why it's pretty safe for us to conclude that this hypersonic missile launch was indeed dictated more by an internal technological timetable than by diplomatic or external consideration.
All right, Professor Myers, thank you so much for your insight and your time this morning. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
With just 1 day left until CES 2025 officially kicks off, the tech world is already abuzz with groundbreaking innovations and shifting trends. Our Moon Hae-dan reports from Las Vegas.
Warming up before the start of the world's biggest tech event of the year, eyes are on the new tech trends to be unveiled over the next few days. Speaking to the press ahead of this year's Consumer Electronics Show, the Consumer Technology Association discussed how changing political, economic, and social-cultural shifts impact tech adoption. An increasingly significant portion of the tech consumer pie now consists of the digitally native Generation Z, meaning that there is now a bigger drive for tech to be aligned with their values, which includes sustainability. On the other end of the spectrum, technology centered around senior care is also booming with more personalized experiences across a range of different appliances. 80% of US consumers consider smart home tech as age tech, according to data from the CTA.
Yeah, and I think it's about this idea of AI integration in the next generation of consumer hardware transforms devices like Samsung smartphones with Galaxy AI or HP laptops with their companion on board, LG TVs.
And kicking off the series of press conferences a day before CES, LG Electronics showcased its vision to achieve exactly that, under the slogan, "Less artificial, more human." Demonstrations of LG's generative AI-powered solutions such as ThinkU On showed how it uses sensors to monitor user behavior and control devices around the home. This includes washing machines, speakers, TVs, refrigerators, and cars. A notable aspect of this AI service is that it goes beyond personalization to what LG has dubbed affectionate intelligence. In order to create seamless AI-powered spaces, LG has partnered with international companies such as Microsoft, as well as renowned figures such as entertainer and entrepreneur will.i.am.
And this collaboration between LG and FYI can be summed up in one word, 2 syllables, abracadabra. And in Aramaic, it means I create as I speak. And it's no longer just a word, it's real.
Another South Korean tech giant, Samsung Electronics, redefined its slogan of AI for all to meet the needs of different lifestyles, such as single-person families, those with pets, and so on.
Today, I want to redefine what home means to us and introduce our roadmap for home AI. For the past 10 years, we have led innovation in the home, making your home smarter with every step forward.
The firm also addressed concerns surrounding AI and user data, claiming that its new NOC security system means that any data collected to personalize user experience can only be accessed by the user, even if the server is compromised. Other than in the home, Samsung Electronics integrates AI in laptops, smartwatches, and rings, combining this year's tech trend of personalized technology coordinated across various hardware to provide an uninterrupted user experience. With the boom in generative AI, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang is set to deliver the CES 2025 opening keynote speech amid heightened expectations for growth in the chip sector. Moon Hae-dan, Arirang News, Las Vegas.
4 years after the Capitol riot, a U.S. Congress peacefully certified President-elect Donald Trump's 2024 victory, with Vice President Kamala Harris overseeing the process, which confirmed her own loss. Lee Soo-jin reports.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes.
U.S. Congress on Monday local time formally certified incoming President Donald Trump's re-election in a special session presided over by none other than the outgoing Vice President and former presidential candidate Kamala Harris. The peaceful and rather uneventful certification, lasting around 30 minutes, saw both Democrats and Republicans rise in a standing ovation. It stood in stark contrast to 4 years ago when supporters of then-President Donald Trump stormed the Capitol in an effort to block the certification of the 2020 presidential election results. After the ceremony this year, Harris stressed the importance of upholding American democracy.
Well, today was obviously a very important day, and it was about what should be the norm and what the American people should be able to take for granted, which is that one of the most important pillars of our democracy is that there will be a peaceful transfer of power. And today, America's democracy stood.
Unlike Trump 4 years ago, Harris did not contest the results of the 2024 election and graciously accepted her defeat. Former Vice President Mike Pence wrote on X that Harris overseeing the certification of an election that she lost was particularly admirable. Pence at the certification ceremony in 2021 resisted intense pressure from Trump and his supporters to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. The importance of democracy was also emphasized by President Biden in a Washington Post op-ed released the day before the certification ceremony, where he wrote that Americans should be glad to not see a repeat this year of what he called a shameful attack, and that the events of January 6, 2021 must not be forgotten. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Now, over in Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced Monday that he will step down from office following his ruling Liberal Party's leadership election. Lee Seung-ja has the details.
Following years of declining support from the public, as well as his own caucus, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced he will resign from office once his ruling Liberal Party chooses its next leader.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
Trudeau has been facing heavy pressure to step down from within his party, especially as polls show that the ruling party faces a landslide loss in the next election. The Canadian leader said that it's difficult to lead the party going into the next election, given the internal battles.
As you all know, I am a fighter, and I am not someone who backs away from a fight, particularly when a fight is as important as this one is. But I have always been driven by my love for Canada, by my desire to serve Canadians, and by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And Canadians deserve a real choice in the next election. And it has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
In the meantime, the country's parliament will be suspended until March 24th, while a new party leader is chosen. The White House on Monday responded to the announcement with White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre calling Trudeau a friend of the United States during his years as the Canadian leader, who worked closely with the U.S. on many issues facing the two countries and the world. She said President Joe Biden appreciates Trudeau's commitment to protecting North America from geopolitical threats and his work to keep the region economically competitive. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, on the other hand, brought up the idea of Canada joining the U.S. as a 51st state and the benefits it could bring. Taken to Truth Social following Trudeau's announcement, Trump said if Canada merged with the U.S., there will be no tariffs, and it would also be safe from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. Trudeau was the Liberal Party leader for 11 years and Prime Minister for 9. As well as mounting issues including Trump's tariff threats and declining public opinion polls, many pundits see his resignation as choosing to jump before he's pushed out ahead of the general election later this year. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Yoon Se-young, and this is The World Now. We begin with news from the Vatican. On Monday, Pope Francis appointed an Italian nun to lead the Dicastery for Institute of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life. This marks the first time a woman has been appointed to head a major Vatican department. Sister Simona Brambilla was named as the new prefect of the Vatican office, succeeding Brazilian Cardinal João Braz de Aviz, who had held the position since 2011. Throughout his 11 years as Pope, Francis has emphasized the importance of women's leadership within the Vatican, appointing many women to key roles across various departments. However, this is the first time a woman has been appointed to lead a major office of the Holy See, the internationally recognized sovereign entity that oversees the global Catholic Church. Sister Brambilla will serve as the department's prefect, while Spanish Cardinal Angel Fernandez Artimi has been named as pro-prefect. The Vatican has not yet provided details on how the two will divide their responsibilities. We go to Russia next, where more than 30 dolphins have been found dead after oil from 2 sunken Russian tankers spilled into the Black Sea. According to the Russian Delphi Dolphin Rescue and Research Center, 32 dolphins died due to oil leaking from the tankers that sank 3 weeks ago. The tankers went down on December 15th in the Kerch Strait between southern Russia's Krasnodar region and Crimea during severe weather conditions. Following the spill, oil traveled approximately 250 kilometers to the coast of Sevastopol, prompting authorities in the Russian-controlled Crimean Peninsula to declare a state of emergency. The research center said that since the emergency declaration, 61 marine mammals were found dead. Analysis of the carcasses suggests that 29 died before the oil spill, while the other deaths are likely linked to the contamination. Heavy rainfall in the UK on Monday prompted the declaration of major incidents in the Midlands regions. In Leicestershire, firefighters responded to hundreds of calls, rescuing 59 individuals from flood-related emergencies. In Lincolnshire, 50 children had to be rescued from a school after surrounding roads were inundated. Nearly 200 flood warnings have been issued across England and Wales. That includes a severe warning for the River Soar in Leicestershire on Monday evening, indicating a potential danger to life and that large-scale evacuations may be necessary.
There has been a big drop in temperatures overnight, and a cold wave advisory has been reissued to parts of Gyeonggi-do and Gangwon-do. Seoul had morning temperatures that were nearly 7 degrees lower than the same time yesterday, and both the west and east coast as well as Jeju Island are under a strong wind advisory. And there is a chance of heavy snow. Until Thursday, Jeolla-do province could see up to 40 centimeters of snowfall, while the rest of Jeolla-do and Chungcheong-namdo province could see 20 centimeters of snow. A heavy snow advisory has been issued for Jeolla-do and mountainous regions on Jeju. Now, afternoon highs in Seoul and Chuncheon will be at 1. Daegu gets up to 5. A dry advisory remains in place for the East Coast. Much of Korea needs to brace for an extreme cold snap for the rest of the week. Thursday will be the coldest day of the season with a low of minus 12 degrees in the capital. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.